Join us as we continue to explore the world of the rich and wealthy. Welcome to Luxury Fountain. Today we will take a look into the founder of the luxurious Louis Vuitton and how he built his empire of luxurious clothing and accessories. As always, don't forget to hit that like button, turn on that notification bell, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos. Without further ado, let's begin. The label Louis Vuitton is the world's most highly regarded luxury fashion brand. Bernard Arnault, the company's CEO, is also the world's second richest man, with an estimated net worth of $180 billion. Looking at the company's current prosperity, you'd never believe that it was founded by an individual who was actually homeless during his adolescence, had no schooling, and camped in a forest. Louis Vuitton is a remarkable success story. However, the corporation would face a hostile takeover, numerous litigation, and a slew of other issues. This is the incredible tale of Louis Vuitton, and how a little family firm grew into one of the world's most powerful brands. Louis Vuitton was introduced to the world in 1821 and lived up on his family's estate in France, in the little village of Anchai, in the outskirts of countryside. They didn't have electricity or running water. Louis's father, Xavier, was a miller and a farmer, while his mother, Corinne, manufactured hats for additional money. There is no evidence that Louis ever acquired an education. The nearest school was 6 miles distant, and he is thought to have labored continuously on the family's farm without acquiring the ability to read or write. Louis would have worked in the fields from nightfall to morning every day, merely to provide food for his family. Inevitably, the Vuittons were in financial difficulty, and little Louis was born into a position that should have consigned him to a bleak future. Then things got a lot worse. Louis's mother died while he was only 10 years old, and his father promptly remarried. But Louis's new stepmother was extremely controlling and manipulative towards him, and he was often fighting with her. So, at the age of 13, he fled out of his home with ambitions to travel to Paris. He left in the dead of the night without a single good night. The only difficult was that Paris was 225 miles distant, and Louis had neither cash or food. As a result, he was compelled to travel along dirt roads. He camped in the woods most nights, with nothing to eat and only a coat to keep him comfortable. He would do odd activities to be paid with food or currency whenever he came to a new village. However, there was never sufficient cash to cover housing costs. As a result, he kept sleeping in the woods or anywhere he could find a place to sleep for the night. Louis was able to gain skills from craftsmen through his numerous odd jobs, and he learned how to fabricate with metal, stone, fabric, and wood. This diverse set of abilities would subsequently impact his life. However, travel was exceedingly slow at this rate. It took him 3 years to get to Paris. Louis was able to get employment as an assistant box maker and packer not long after arriving in Paris. When a client was preparing to leave on a vacation, box makers would construct custom-sized boxes for them in addition to pack and unpack them. This profession allowed him to encounter a lot of upper-class customers who were looking for custom-made bags for their trips. Louis spent several years here learning the trade while striving as diligently as he could. In fact, in the year 1851, the Empress of France became a customer and saw his outstanding artistry. He was hired as her private box maker and packer. For majority box makers, this is the highest distinction they will ever get in their careers. Louis had progressed from being a homeless adolescent with none to his name to now working in a prominent position in aristocracy. That was a great accomplishment in and of itself. But the designer had higher plans for his future. Louis utilized his funds to establish his own business after marrying at the age of 33 and opened his own box-making business in Paris to start making his own products. Louis had discovered a serious fault in the current design on the suitcases. All of the boxes were constructed of leather and featured dome-shaped tops to allow rain to roll off the luggage stop. The main issue was that they couldn't be stacked, so carriers had to transport the boxes one at a time. Louis started tinkering with alternative materials and discovered that canvas was more lightweight, more durable, and more resistant, allowing the trunks to have flat tops instead. Everything became more efficient because they could now be stacked in a pile and packed numerous trunks at once, and they are additionally more compact as well. Louis' revolutionary suitcase design culminated the era of contemporary luggage. Needless to say, Louis had already established a professional reputation and upper-class connections. So when he released his new luggage collection, it was an instant success. He even produced a Louis Vuitton catalog so that consumers could look at his products and have them made before having them shipped to their homes. Within 2 years of designing his new luggage, they had become a beautiful and must-have accessory among the wealthy, as well as a status symbol. And his brand had grown to such popularity that he was getting orders from all around the world. He even started receiving orders from Egyptian royals. Louis made enough money in 1859 to engage a crew of craftspeople to help him fulfill his orders. He constructed a new factory outside of Paris and hired 20 people. Around that period, an increasing number of individuals began making trips by train and boat. As a result, the number of potential clients expanded tremendously. Individuals from all walks of life now required high-quality luggage. It appeared that Louis had made it and would continue to flourish for the remaining years of his life. That didn't seem to be the case, unfortunately. France was on the verge of war, and misfortune was about approaching Louis Vuitton once more. The Franco-Prussian War began out in 1870, whilst Louis was 49 years old. Louis was forced to evacuate his home and take refuge in a crowded camp with countless others. He was running out of food and was afraid for his life. When Louis was eventually allowed to return to his shop in 1871, everything had been destroyed. Windows had been smashed, equipment had been stolen, and he had lost all he had worked for. Instead of abandoning up, he resolved to re-establish the business with his money, promising that it would be even greater than before. Because so many individuals had been displaced by the war, there were considerably more vacant stores for rent around the city. So Louis Vuitton utilized this by establishing his latest shop in a significantly more wealthy aristocratic spot in Paris. It was ideal since it was right next to the railway station and the famous Grand Hotel, so travelers in need of new luggage didn't have to travel far. By 1872, he had created a whole new design, baggage made of beige cloth with stripes. This became extremely popular, and people enjoyed flaunting their current taste. Many other businesses attempted to imitate his look, but their products were so unbelievably high quality that shoppers wanted a genuine Louis Vuitton bag. Louis worked at the latest shop in Paris for the following 20 years, until his death at the age of 70. His legacy, however, was carried on by his son Georges, who succeeded over the family firm. Georges wanted to take the brand abroad, such as by building a successful London store. At this time, Louis Vuitton's suitcase was so prominent that many other box makers began to produce knockoffs. So, in 1896, Georges Vuitton introduced the now iconic LV emblem to make it more difficult to imitate. The initials LV were his father's, in memory of the man who founded the business. He also devised the brilliant idea of installing an innovative new latch on the trunks, making it impossible for burglars to pick them. The company had 100 employees by 1900, and it managed to develop year after year. All of the workers received extensive training to become professional box manufacturers. Even today, Louis Vuitton personnel are trained for 18 to 20 years prior to being trusted to manufacture a product on their own. In recognition of another fashion hero, Coco Chanel, the company began to develop into a completely new range of items. She ordered a little dome-shaped purse in 1925. Initially, this was an artwork she created on her own, and it was only for her. However, it would later be mass-produced and given the name Alma. This was a huge hit, so Louis Vuitton started manufacturing more compact leather bags such as the Keep All, Speedy, and No. Handbags were typically viewed as extremely inelegant and large before to Louis Vuitton, but the brand had a significant role in them becoming much more trendy. Georges Vuitton passed away in 1936, leaving the company to his son Gaston Louis. However, Gaston inherited over the enterprise at a terrible moment, since France was heading back to war in only a few years. Contracts were cancelled during World War II, and Gaston was obliged to close the Louis Vuitton business. Paris was once again under siege. The only way for Gaston Vuitton to salvage the company was to work with Nazi Germany. Stephanie Bonvicini published a book titled Louis Vuitton, a French Saga. She inquired about World War II records while conducting research in the corporate archives. Almost immediately, company representatives attempted to steer clear of showing her the facts. They stated that a fire destroyed all of the documentation from 1930 to 1945. Stephanie discovered, after much research into other historical papers, that Louis Vuitton had the ability to open a magnificent ground floor shop front in the Hotel du Parc during the Nazi regime because they cooperated with them. Meanwhile, a number of additional companies were forced to close due to their refusal to collaborate with the Nazis. Clearly, the firm was embarrassed by this moment in their history. They would argue, however, that Gaston undertook what he needed to carry out in order for the company to survive. Other fashion designers, such as Coco Chanel, worked with the Nazis to ensure that her firm in Paris was not destroyed. Their brands would almost likely no longer exist if they had not chosen to collaborate with the enemy. When Gaston died in 1970, his son-in-law Henri Racamier assumed control of the Louis Vuitton brand. We've reached the fourth generation. But unlike his forefathers, Henri already had extensive business knowledge from a previous company. Therefore, when he acquired Louis Vuitton, he was able to take the company's reputation to a whole new level. Henri began making significant modifications to the Louis Vuitton name in order to transform it from a family-owned business to the giant enterprise that it is today. He changed the business paradigm of Louis Vuitton from wholesale to retail. He had moved into many other nations by 1978, including Japan. Sales increased from $20 million to $260 million over the period of 6 years, after accounting for modern inflation. As a result, Henri chose to go public in 1984. Louis Vuitton sold all 1 million shares for $63.63 each. Henri used this momentum and influx of funds to open new outlets all over the world. Louis Vuitton had hit $1 billion in revenues by 1987. It was much beyond anything Louis could have imagined when he initially started his shop in Paris. Henri also chose to merge the company with Moet Hennessy, a premium drinks company that manufactured champagne and cognac. Together, they founded LVMH, a new luxury company. In principle, joining together would allow them to collaborate on resources and grow even quicker. Unfortunately, Henri did not get alongside the president of Moet Hennessy after the merger. So, Henri enlisted the assistance of a successful property developer he knew, Bernard Arnault, to assist him and manage the problem. Unfortunately, enticing him as a shareholder would be disastrous. Bernard covertly purchased 43% of Louis Vuitton shares and received cooperation from the Moet and Hennessy family to obtain more control in LVMH. Henri felt betrayed by the guy he'd brought in to aid him, so he took Bernard to court. He demanded to relinquish his controlling ownership in Louis Vuitton. However, the courts eventually decided with Bernard. Henri was so enraged by his friend's betrayal that he resolved to leave Louis Vuitton totally. For the first time in nearly a century, no one from the Vuitton family was associated with the brand. After all of the excitement of Bernard's hostile takeover, Louis Vuitton sales began to plummet. Journalists had stopped covering the brand. For a time, it appeared that the business might fail. Bernard, on the other hand, knew how to shift the company's fortunes around. Louis Vuitton managed to make a return by collaborating with numerous fashion designers for its 100th anniversary collection. The designers Vivienne Westwood and Isaac Mizrahi produced their own interpretations on the renowned LV monogram logo. Customers had never seen anything like it before, and everyone wanted to get a grip on a Louis Vuitton bag. Bernard's investment in Louis Vuitton eventually paid off handsomely. He currently serves as the chairman and CEO of LVMH. Forbes named him the world's richest man in 2021, with a net worth of more than $180 billion. Of course, when stock prices fluctuate, his position on the wealthy list changes, but he's virtually always among the top 5 wealthiest in the world. However, among the wealthiest people such as Bezos, Musk, Gates, and Buffett, Bernard Arnault is the least well-known because he likes to remain out of the spotlight. What we do know is that he has such a cutthroat business image that he is regarded as the wolf in Kashmir, which is why LVMH currently controls over 70 distinct brands thanks to all of the mergers and acquisitions that Bernard has carried off. This one firm owns many of the world's most prestigious brands. Despite this, it all began with a penniless, homeless youngster. In the modern era, Louis Vuitton expanded its identity with new, vibrant styles that appealed to a younger audience. Marc Jacobs was appointed creative director in 1997. He established the first ready-to-wear range as well as the iconic monogram Vernib handbag brand. Marc Jacobs also pushed LV into watches, jewelry, and sunglasses. However, he eventually left Louis Vuitton to launch his own apparel and accessory business. Of course, the business doesn't exist without problems. Louis Vuitton has a whole staff of lawyers on the lookout for copyright infringement. and they are not afraid to sue someone if they suspect they are stealing the trademark logo. They've allegedly sued Google for results from searches and adverts that direct customers to counterfeit bags. Google won the case, stating that they have no control over what its user post on the internet. Louis Vuitton has also collaborated with labels such as Supreme, broadening their demography like never before. However, believe it or not, Louis Vuitton sued Supreme for stealing their logo until they've discovered how profitable a relationship would be. Louis Vuitton Supreme products now fetch a little fortune. The leather trunk, for example, cost $125,000. Even an LV Supreme sweater costs more than $5,000. Of course, the copyright infringement problem that Louis Vuitton has had since its inception is still a concern for the company today. They estimate that they lose thousands of millions of dollars each year due to copycat reproductions of their products. Even after 168 years in the business, they don't appear to be reducing their pace anytime soon. Louis Vuitton remains a brand that many people strive to wear, and it is a favorite of celebrities and every individual. They are currently the world's most valuable fashion brand, valued at $39 billion. With over 400 locations worldwide, Louis Vuitton can be found in practically every major city. But what are your thoughts on Louis Vuitton? Do you think the excitement has inflated it, or do you think the level of craftsmanship of the products deserve the hefty price tag? Post your thoughts and comments in the section below. We'd love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to Luxury Fountain if you liked the video. We're hoping to see you in our future video.